U.S.-China trade conflict. The United States and China stand as two titans of the modern era, their military and technological capabilities reshaping global dynamics. America's military supremacy remains formidable, with 750 overseas bases and an $825 billion defense budget dwarfing China's official $296 billion expenditure. Yet China's focused modernization has yielded remarkable advances: hypersonic weapons that outpace American defenses, the world's largest navy by vessel count, and anti-access systems that push U.S. carriers beyond the first island chain. Technologically, both nations race for supremacy across multiple frontiers. China has surged ahead in fourth-generation nuclear reactors, electric vehicles, and battery technology, while America maintains edges in semiconductors, artificial intelligence, and aerospace. The Middle Kingdom's innovation ecosystem, once dismissed as imitative, now threatens Western leadership in quantum computing, 5G infrastructure, and advanced materials. Where these rivals diverge most starkly is in their global conduct. While America has intervened in over 80 foreign conflicts since World War II, China has steadfastly embraced the 5 principles of peaceful coexistence. Beijing's non-interference doctrine, forged at Bandung in 1955, shapes its contemporary approach, seeking host government consent before engagement, limiting mediation scope, and emphasizing sovereignty over regime change. This philosophy has made China an attractive partner for nations wary of Western conditionalities. Through the Belt and Road Initiative, Beijing wields influence not through force projection but infrastructure diplomacy, building ports, railways, and digital networks across 150 countries. As Foreign Minister Wang Yi articulated in 2024, China never adds fuel to the fire, preferring political solutions over military interventions. This contrasting approach to global affairs, America's interventionist tradition versus China's sovereign respect, defines the fundamental choice facing the international community in the 21st century. U.S.-China Trade War of 2025. The China-U.S. tariff war in 2025 stands as one of the most economically consequential trade conflicts in modern history, with both nations locked in a complex web of retaliatory measures that have fundamentally altered global trade patterns. As of September 2025, the economic landscape reveals a fascinating yet troubling picture of how trade warfare has reshaped the world's 2 largest economies. The current state of tariffs presents a dramatic escalation from previous years. The United States now maintains an average tariff rate of 51.1% on Chinese goods, covering virtually all imports from China. This represents a staggering increase of approximately 1.5 times higher than when President Trump began his second term in January 2025. China, while maintaining lower absolute rates, has responded with its own robust tariff regime, averaging 32.6% on American goods. These figures mask the true severity of the situation, as certain product categories face even more punitive rates, with some goods subjected to compound tariffs exceeding 100% when various overlapping duties are combined. The trajectory of escalation throughout 2025 has been particularly alarming. The year began with a relatively modest 10% tariff on Chinese goods, ostensibly targeting trafficking concerns. By April, this had evolved into what analysts termed a tariff arms race, with both nations successively raising duties to 34%, then 84%, and finally peaking at 125% on both sides. This dramatic escalation brought both economies to the brink of a near-total trade embargo before a temporary truce was negotiated in May. The economic impact on both nations has been substantial and multifaceted. In the United States, the tariff regime has effectively imposed a $42 billion annual tax burden on American consumers and businesses, with the potential for an additional $129 billion if threatened escalations materialize. This translates to an average reduction in after-tax income of 0.3% across all households, with middle and lower-income families bearing a disproportionately higher burden of 0.33%. The employment effects have been equally concerning, with an estimated 94,300 full-time equivalent jobs eliminated, and the potential for nearly 293,000 additional job losses if threatened tariffs are implemented. China's economic standing has been similarly affected, though the Middle Kingdom has demonstrated remarkable resilience in the face of American pressure. Chinese exports to the United States have plummeted by approximately 22.2% in the first half of 2025 compared to the previous year, with certain sectors like furniture experiencing declines of over 53% in June alone. However, China has successfully diversified its export markets, strengthening ties with Southeast Asia, Africa, and Latin America while accelerating its domestic innovation capabilities. The current truce, extended through November 10, 2025, has provided a temporary respite, with U.S. tariffs reduced to 30% and Chinese duties lowered to 10%. This fragile peace has allowed both nations to reassess their positions while preparing for crucial negotiations expected to culminate in a potential Trump-Xi summit later this year. The truce has been particularly beneficial for American retailers preparing for the holiday season, as it provides much-needed certainty for supply chain planning and inventory management. From a broader economic perspective, both nations find themselves in markedly different positions than when the trade war intensified. The United States, while maintaining its position as the world's largest economy, has seen its average tariff rate surge from less than 2.5% at the beginning of 2025 to over 18%, fundamentally altering its relationship with global trade. This protectionist stance has created ripple effects throughout the American economy, with manufacturing sectors facing higher input costs and consumers experiencing increased prices across a wide range of goods. China, despite facing severe trade restrictions, has emerged from this conflict with enhanced economic sovereignty and accelerated technological independence. The nation has successfully leveraged its dominance in rare earth minerals and critical materials as strategic bargaining chips, while simultaneously investing heavily in domestic semiconductor production and advanced manufacturing capabilities. This transformation has positioned China to weather future trade storms with greater resilience than previously anticipated. The human cost of this trade conflict extends beyond mere statistics. American farmers have faced devastating losses as access to Chinese markets has been restricted. The global supply chain disruptions have affected businesses worldwide, from small retailers unable to source affordable products to multinational corporations forced to restructure their entire production networks. Looking ahead, both nations stand at a critical juncture. The November truce expiration looms large, with the potential for renewed escalation if negotiations fail to produce meaningful breakthroughs. The economic stakes could not be higher, as failure to reach a comprehensive agreement threatens to plunge both economies into a deeper cycle of retaliation that could potentially reverse decades of economic integration and globalization. The statistical reality reveals that neither nation has emerged as a clear victor in this trade conflict. Both China and the United States have experienced significant economic pain, with consumers and businesses in both countries bearing the brunt of higher costs, reduced market access, and increased economic uncertainty. The path forward requires careful diplomatic navigation and a recognition that in the modern global economy, trade wars produce no winners, only varying degrees of economic damage that ripple throughout the interconnected world economic system. The facts, however, remain there that America is undoubtedly number one in economic parameters, military overreach and technological prowess, but China, as a distant second in world GDP figure calculations, is trying to catch up with America at the earliest. Though China is not hegemonically influencing the others in the world, yet is fledging its presence over the world in all possible ways.